Good morning and welcome into Mueller in the morning here on the Mueller Sports Report, the first for this week. I know I did 5 last week. We'll see how often we decide for letting these roll. And today we'll take a little bit of a somber moment, somber time, just talking about the NBA canceling and just some of the things around that and, what's going on there. I'm just going to be real blunt. I don't really have the energy for all the negativity and all the conspiracy theory and all the political, all the ways politics are being discussed by people on either side. And to be blunt with you, for me, when we talk about the World Health Organization and we talk about all the people involved and all what like countries like Italy and all of those things, like that's just reality. That's it's not. You can only spin things so many different ways, and I know people are acting like this is, people are overreacting. For me, not emotionally, but behaviorally, I'm okay with overreacting. Emotional overreacting is one thing, right? People stressing out, worrying. Listen, last night as things were going down, I was actually planning on going to bed a little bit early, and obviously everything kind of popping off and just my interest in things in general and what affects people. I stayed up later than I normally do. And yeah, I did allow it to create a little anxiety in me, and, not maybe anxiety about myself, but just anxiety in general. And then when you think about things, so anybody who ever struggles with asthma or has asthma knows that when you think about your asthma, you can actually kind of fire it up a little bit. You can actually notice it. Not unlike if you have knee pain and you start thinking about your knee, you can actually start to feel the pain kind of thing. And so, last night I took an extra asthma, treatment. So that is me emotionally reacting to something in a way that probably I shouldn't, and that's okay. But when it comes to behaviors, it becomes to protecting people, especially the vulnerable. For me, vulnerable people. Obviously, I'm a counselor. You guys know that I've been a mental health professional for 18, 19 years now. Protecting the vulnerable has always been something that I think is our responsibility. And so, with this, we understand that you and I may not be affected, but the vulnerable type, there's someone on Twitter, Stephen White, he talks about his immunosuppression. I believe his is, and some of the things he's retweeted has talked about some kids with immunosuppression, some people with on cancer drugs, and then obviously we know the aging population. But for me, taking extreme steps to protect others from a behavioral level is always okay. Now, I'm not going to pretend like I understand the stock market and all of that kind of stuff, but on the other hand, I'm not sure that I would prioritize it even if I totally understood it. Maybe I would, but the reality is that people's lives matter to me, right? And so, I don't know what's going to happen from a business perspective. I don't know how it could impact, my wife's business, my own, medical office, my job. Am I going to be able to have enough time off if we have to shut down and only have to deal with emergent situations? Because unfortunately, that's not going to include my services right now at my medical office. And so, what's that going to do? I don't know. But I also know that taking care of others, protecting others is something that as humans, we have a responsibility to do. And oftentimes, honestly, we don't do it. I think we've become a society where me is more important than we. And so because of that, there are a lot of people who can kind of foresee that this is going to affect them in ways they don't want it to, generally financially, or inconvenience, or they don't get to watch the NBA and those kind of things. And those people are upset. Or some of them are focused on politics and all that involves around it, or conspiracy theories. And I'll just say this, normally I would say follow the money. When I think of conspiracy theories and those kind of things, the ones that I maybe believe in or think could be possible, I normally say follow the money. And in this case, I'm confident it seems like the money is really getting kind of hit hard, right? So it's not that It doesn't seem like anybody in particular is going to make money off of this thing. Mask makers and hand sanitizers and some of those little kind of things, but Big Pharma currently isn't making money off of it. I don't see how the government wins off of it. I don't see how, following the money gets us to any answer. And so instead, my thought is, how do we focus on we, not me? How do we, if I'm prioritizing when I talk to clients, what I often talk to them about is my needs first, others' needs second, my wants third, others' wants fourth. Now, that's an oversimplification of it, but if we can start to think about my needs, my wants, your wants, and in that order prioritize things, I think we can just live a society that's better. I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know what we're going to be, quote-unquote, forced to do, but in the end, protecting people, especially the vulnerable, right? This isn't something that is just kind of attacking across the board, and you could be 25, 35, or 85 and have the same risk. The percentages and the numbers just say it's vulnerable populations, but that those of us, and I would say I fall somewhat close to the vulnerable population, asthma, Epstein-Barr, which is extreme fatigue syndrome, a couple things like that. I fall a little bit closer to the vulnerable population, but not in the real significant vulnerable population. But again, who knows? But those of us who are not, or those who are not in the vulnerable population, being a carrier, being someone who could infect others, listen, I have family members. I have loved ones. I have coworkers. I have a whole office full of clients that are vulnerable population. And I want them taken care of. And I want you and I want me to be thinking about them. I want me to be thinking about others. And again, that doesn't make it easy. That doesn't mean it's not an overreaction, all that stuff. But here's the thing. Would you rather overreact? Or would you rather underreact and start to hear the stories of grandpas and aunts and immunosuppressed children and those kind of people being affected and passing? Is that right? Again, those are the extremes, but they're real. Because this isn't a disease of the mind and of just made up, or if you think you got it, all of a sudden, it's a real disease that the World Health Organization and other countries are dealing with. You see the video that was going kind of viral last night of an NFL player or an ex-NFL player in Italy and what their town looks like. That's possibly where America's going. So take care of yourselves and take care of others. Focus on the needs. The reality is I'm having a Twitter DM conversation with someone who maybe doesn't have the news yet, but could have something great coming down the pike. And, I'd hate for that to be lost because of something like this, but it could be. And then I have someone who I know, and they're dealing with possibly something very negative coming down the road. And so it's really hard at times when you care about other people, because you can celebrate the wins, but then you have to care about the losses. But that's what happens when you care about we, not me, is you start to have other things on your mind. So for the Cavaliers, for the media that were at the game when the Cavs played Utah and Rudy Gobert. And listen, don't even get me started with he did something silly with the microphones and all that stuff. Unfortunately for him, and unfortunately for the way things go, that could turn out really poorly if one of those media members who he touched their recorders or whatever ends up getting the disease, the virus. That could turn out very poorly. If not, it's also very poor optics. But in general, I worry for the Cavs. I worry for some of the media members who I've known for years, from covering the team and what that looks like for them. Because in the end, listen, if March Madness is canceled, we all just have a little less joy in our lives. We have a little less fun in our lives. And listen, we all need fun. We all need distractions. We all need things to enjoy. It's why we pay money for those kind of things. It's why we pay our attention, pay our time for those kind of things. But the only people that are greatly impacted are the kids in the NCAA tournament, are the Cavs players, are the NBA players, are the workers at the arena, are the food places. There are people who are directly impacted by that. But that number, comparably speaking, is small compared to the number of people who could possibly be impacted by the virus, as things can spread so easily. And so my thoughts are with those people. Obviously, we're not trying to, for me, it's not about who's worse and who's better. It's about who's affected. And how do we spend our energy and time on them? So for all my Cavs media members, whether any of you listen to this or not, jerks, what's up, fellas? And a couple ladies, what's going on? I just hope everybody's well. I hope and again, it doesn't matter if you have family members or not. I mean that. Like, obviously, if you have family members, I hope they are all well. The immunosuppressed, the elderly, the whoever. I hope they're all well. But even if you don't, that's just about you. What about we? Because I know I do. I know I have grandma and grandpa. I know that I have concerns for my mother and my father. I know I have concerns for another family member that I'm not going to mention. As I'm talking, I'm not sure that's okay to do. I have concerns for people with issues that could cause them to be more susceptible to all this, especially those who work in public sectors and all of that. In the end, I think what'll be interesting from a sports perspective is I'm not sure how much goes back to normal, quote unquote. I think there's a lot of things in life, specific, and then in sports, that we do just because we've always done it, right? So I'm on day 2 of no longer drinking Coca Cola, and by no longer I mean for about 2 weeks. I'm not going to drink Coca Cola, and those who know me know that I have a slight addiction, and by slight I mean I drink 2 or 3 cans a day, depending on the day. Sometimes it's only 1, sometimes it's only 2, whatever it is, but I'm on day 2. Listen, I've said this before. I don't think Coca Cola, if it was invented today, would be approved, because there's nothing healthy about it. There's nothing good about it for our systems. But because it's been around for a long time, it kind of has to be. And so then all the Monsters and energy drinks and those kind of things kind of follow suit and get approved. Because you have Coke, you got to allow this other stuff that's got nothing beneficial for us besides sugar and energy and those kind of things. The same thing. I'm not sure how the media is going to be involved in the future with sports teams. I'm not sure how sports teams are going to allow access to their players after this. It could be exactly the same, or it could be a lot less, because the players, again, NBA's canceled, other leagues may follow suit. But I think what you'll find is that players and teams starting to wonder, why do they allow it? What's the goal? What's the purpose? Where does it benefit them? Those kind of things. And so I think it'll be interesting to see whether the NBA restarts at the playoffs, if the NBA restarts next year, what happens in Major League Baseball, all the different sports. It'll be interesting to see if anything ever goes back the way it was. Or if this is an opportunity where teams and leagues and players and media even start to ask the question, why do we do what we do? Why do we do it the way we do it? What's the benefit to us? And how can we do things differently in the future? Because again, it's not about overreacting, but it is about asking if this is possible. And I'll give you my quick, it's not conspiracy theory, but I'll give you my quick thoughts is, I don't know if this will ramp up and we'll have more of these, but I do know that I believe that the world itself has some unhealth to it. Again, whether it's man-made, not man-made, man-caused, whatever, that's all become politicized and whatever else. I do think the world has got some unhealth to it. I think we've become a world that likes things that makes us feel good, that we focused on feeling good, liking things. When the reality, even if we just look at food is meant to nourish us. It's to give our body the things it needs to succeed. And yet here I am drinking my coffee with just a smidge of creamer in it because I like it. And with no Coke in my future, it's important. Something I feel like I need. But I think we focus so much on needs. I'm also on day 2 of very limited carbs, as much as I can, because for me, I don't see the huge benefit in carbs. I think they're there, and I'm gonna have some and those kind of things. But I think it's another thing where we have filled ourselves with things like French fries and other things. instead of thinking, what do we need? What's nutritious and all of those kind of things? I think we've just looked at what fills us or makes us feel good as opposed to what is good for us. So I think it'll be interesting to see how things change over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. I think companies are going to be forced to close. Not just for a week or two, but I think because of those week or two, I think companies will be forced to close as companies. I think it'll force us to think about what is necessary, what is needed, what is whatever other terms we want to use. And I think you're really going to start to see the reality of people. You're going to see people who are selfish, focused on themselves, focus on just their family. And if they're able to, they're going to take everything they can for their family versus people who are focused on we and focused on, hey, I need a pack of toilet paper or I need 2. So I'm going to take 2 versus taking 22, right? I think you're going to see that from people. And again, people reveal themselves in times of crisis. So I ask that question to you. Whether this crisis is directly affecting you, it's just affecting you because the NBA is canceled and maybe March Madness is canceling. What will you be revealed to be through this crisis? Whether you think it's a crisis or not. What will you be revealed to be? What will I be revealed to be? Will I be revealed as a me person who's just been spouting off about we? Or will I start to show qualities that show that I care for myself, I care for others, and I care about the future? A little deep, maybe not what you need to hear today, maybe not what you want to hear. Maybe you shut this off a long time ago because this is not sportsy sports, and that's okay. We'll be back with sportsy sports in the near future. I hope everyone is well. Be safe, take care of yourself, and take care of others.